Peace, everybody. I'm making this live stream video because my Instagram was deleted yesterday off of something extremely simple and I thought was very insignificant, right? There was this Instagram post a person I was following posted about a mummy of Ramses, and they posted a picture of a white man as a reconstruction of Ramses, and then the people in the comment section was bragging and boasting, saying, see, I told you Egypt was white. And then they was saying how when they tested the DNA of the mummies came back showing they were Caucasians. And I just told them something simple. I say Sudan or Nubia is where the Egyptian pharaohs and all of them came from. And Sudan is right now considered an Arab country, a Middle Eastern country. And all Arab countries are legally considered Caucasians. So if any pharaoh has DNA linked to a Nubian or a Sudanese person, they could legally say they're Caucasians. And I was showing them the evidence, the links showing that Sudan, even though Morocco was in West Africa, north of Senegal, Morocco was considered Middle Eastern and Caucasian. And they could actually link all of those countries, even Lebanon, because Lebanon is where the Phoenicians came from. And because Lebanon is an Arab country, even so-called Israel or Palestine or Yemen or Jordan, all of those countries, Sudan, Egypt, Libya, even though we know Libya had a huge black population, even right now, Libya, they have the black people in slavery, but when Gaddafi was in charge of Libya, the black people in Libya was in positions of power. But because they're considered Middle Eastern, legally they can be considered Caucasian, and because they can be considered Caucasian, the white Europeans can claim their history as their own. In Tunisia, that's where the Carthaginians was, Egypt, Nubia. And I was showing them the proof, and I'm going to show y'all the proof that Sudanese people, even though Sudan has the blackest people on earth, they're considered white Caucasians. And their DNA is mixed in with the global Caucasian DNA Rolodex or database. So if your DNA goes back to Sudan or Nubia, you're considered a Caucasian. And this is how they're actually claiming that the Egyptians are Middle Eastern and Caucasian, because Sudan is considered Middle Eastern and Caucasian. And I'm gonna show it. Watch this. And this is why Instagram deleted my page, because a lot of the people that was boasting how first they were saying the Egyptian pharaoh's DNA came back as Caucasian, and then they were saying the reason it came back as Caucasian is because they're Middle Eastern, you know. And then I was showing them Sudan is Middle Eastern, and they couldn't really explain why Sudan considered Middle Eastern. So they just deleted my account. They just reported me to YouTube, I mean not YouTube, but Instagram, and just took my page down just off of me showing them that Sudan is considered so-called Middle Eastern. Watch this. Hold on, not that. Hold on. See right here. By the mid-20th century, a common definition of Middle East encompassed the states of the territories of Turkey, Cyprus, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, Israel, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, Jordan, Egypt, Sudan. You see what I'm saying? And Libya. And various states and territories of Arabia proper. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Yemen, Oman. And it also goes to Morocco, which is West Africa. But they showing right here where they got the things highlighted. They saying these are the places that is Middle Eastern, which is legally Caucasian. Because watch this. Hold on, let me show you the pictures. Let me show you the pictures that they were posting about the mummy of Ramses. This is the picture. Hold on, you see it right here? This is the skeleton of so-called Ramses, right? And they recreated this white man that looks exactly like the mummy, not accounting for the fact that this is a dried up skeleton. And they say because they recreated this white man, the so-called Egyptians were white. But right here, this is a computer generated recreation of this skeleton, which shows him looking like a Palestinian. You know, but this is something that, hold on, who did this? I say, are you saying a white man is a 3,000-year-old dead black man's body? They showing this, and then there's another one right here. Another computer-generated image of this Ramses skeleton. Because if you look at the actual mummy, it's not yellow. This yellow one was a tinted version, like a lightened version, you know. But this is the one that got me deleted when I was criticizing this one. And they was boasting that Ramses is a Northern European. I was saying the DNA they use to claim that people are so-called Caucasian are actually people that are black in North Africa, like Sudan, not Northern Europe. And I'm gonna show you this right here. And it was really disgusting and pathetic. And the people that I was actually commenting against, me just showing that Sudan is considered Middle Eastern and Caucasian, when I was just showing something simple like that, they were saying how so-called black Americans are appropriating other people's culture. I was saying it's not true. It seems like it's the so-called Northern European that's so-called appropriating other people's culture. You're the one claiming that the Egyptians was a white people and the Native Americans are Europeans and South Asian people. Like everybody seemed to be European. You don't see the so-called black people doing that. I'm just minding my business. I just saw this thing pop up and everybody bragging about Ramses II being a so-called Northern European, even though in the Bible they claim that the Jews teach this, that Ham was the father of Canaan, and the so-called Egyptians and the people that was in so-called Israel now, but back then it was called Canaan. They were all Hamites. The Babylonians were Hamites, and the Shemites were wanderer Hebrews going into the land of Ham. Now all of a sudden, Ham is a white man now. He wasn't cursed to be a big-lipped Negro with dark skin like the Jews teach in what they call it, the Talmud. They teach that Ham was cursed to be black with big lips, and the Egyptians, the Canaanites, who else? The Moabites, they were all Hamites, which was so-called who else? The Babylonians, when Nebuchadnezzar came through, the Mesopotamians, they were all so-called Hamites now, according to what they used to teach for hundreds and thousands of years. Now, all of a sudden, and then they say, to try to justify why Nubia is considered so-called Middle Eastern and how the pharaohs might have so-called Nubian blood, they were saying in this comment section that they deleted that the Egyptians enslaved the Nubians. I thought they enslaved the Jews. Now all of a sudden they enslaved the Nubians. And now all of a sudden the Nubians are Middle Eastern. And then in the so-called Bible, the Middle Eastern people came about when Abraham had a wife, Hagar, because Sarah was barren. She couldn't have any children. So they had a son called Ishmael. And Ishmael was the father of the so-called Arab, even though his mother was an Egyptian. And his father was Abraham. But that's where the Arabs came from. But the Egyptians was already here from the so-called Hamites, the Canaanites. But they're teaching now because they got this skeleton that they made yellow. This skeleton, and they made yellow, and then they made a replica of a skeleton, and created a white man. And they say because they created this white man, even though they didn't account for the shriveled up, dried up lips, the dried up skin and flesh, they say because you got this cranium, this yellow mummy, he's a white man. And then they did DNA, and because that DNA came back as so-called Middle Eastern or Sudanese, and Middle Eastern people are considered Caucasians, white people. The Egyptians were white. I'm saying that's because you done turned the Sudanese people white. Now you can look at. Let me type this up. You can type in the Sudanese people. They're not white people. They're considered so-called Arabs because of their Islamic. But watch this. Hold on. People, Sudanese people. These are the people in Sudan, but they're considered white. Sudanese people. These are white, so-called Caucasians. Look at this. These are so-called Caucasians. And watch this. Watch this. Hold on. No. Let's talking about the Caucasus. Watch this. Hold on. Watch this. It say the Caucasian race, also Caucasoid, is a obsolete racial classification of human beings based on now disproved theory of biological race. The Caucasian race was historically regarded as a biological taxon, which, depending on which of the historical race classifications was being used, usually included ancient and modern populations from all parts of Europe, Western Asia, Central Asia, South Asia, North Africa, Horn of Africa. You see what I'm saying? Which includes Sudan and Morocco, which is right on top of Senegal and Mauritania. They're considered so-called Caucasians. South Asia, which is India, Central Asia, Western Asia, which West Asia is the so-called Middle East, North Africa, Horn of Africa. Right here, you see this? They got it glowing. All them people in these green area are considered Caucasian, which also includes Nubia, Sudan, which is right there on top of on the bottom of Egypt. I mean, the Horn of Africa, that's Ethiopia and Somalia are considered. So Ethiopians are also considered Caucasians. Let me type the Horn of Africa. The Horn of Africa consists of internationally recognized countries: Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Somalia are considered Caucasians. So if the Egyptians have Ethiopian ancestry, they can consider them Caucasians also. Let me type in North Africa. North Africa. Northern Africa is a region, the northern portion of African continent. There is no singularly adopted scope for the region, and it is sometimes defined as stretching from the Atlantic shores of Mauritania in the west to Egypt, Suez Canal, and the Red Sea in the east. Varying sources have limited it to the countries of Algeria, Libya, Morocco, Tunisia, a region that was known by the French during colonial times as Afrique du Nord, and is also known by Arabs as Maghreb, West, the western part of Arab world, Maghreb. Most commonly accepted definition includes Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, and Sudan. Sudan, which are considered Caucasians. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, what else? South Asia are also considered Caucasians. And this is basically India. You can see that. That's India. They're considered Caucasians. India. Who else? Central Asia. Central Asia. Turkmenistan. Uzbekistan. I think that's also Iran. I think Afghanistan are considered Caucasians. Who else? Western Asia. Iran, Mesopotamia, Arabian Peninsula, Anatolia, the Middle East. The Middle East is West Asia. Is considered white Caucasians. Who else? Let me look at who else are considered Caucasians. Europe. This is Europe. So this entire region are all considered white people. White Caucasians. But they want to claim that because a pharaoh in Egypt has Ethiopian blood or Sudanese blood, they're white. And because I pointed out the fact that Sudan is considered a white Caucasian, Sudanese people are considered white Caucasians, Instagram deleted my page. Instagram deleted my page for stating the fact that this image is false. Don't no human being look like a 2,000, 3,000 year old mummy that been dried up. And this man, this Ramses died in his 90s or his 80s. But you wouldn't have made him a Caucasian because the mummy that you painted was yellow. But you're not accounting for these high cheekbones, shriveled up, these lips, this wide mouth. You made him into a little white man, skinny, scrawny, that looks exactly like a skeleton. And you used so-called DNA evidence that includes so-called black Africans to claim that he's a Caucasian. So let me go back. Let me go back. But yeah, Instagram took me down for pointing out something simple as logic. And most people don't know that so-called all the people in the Horn of Africa, North Africa, West Asia, South Asia, including India, Afghanistan, they all are considered white Caucasians, even to this very day. When an Arab comes to America, they have to call themselves a Caucasian, regardless of how they look. It's just based on a region and their ethnic origin, because it reinforces the narrative that all of the ancient civilizations that happened over there in Africa, Mesopotamia, so-called Asia Minor, they could try to say they was white people because they claiming all those people were white people, even though they're not so-called white people, but they claiming they are. And they put all of their genetics, their DNA, into a huge database that they could claim are genetic traits of Caucasians. So they found an ancient mummy. He could be from Ethiopia. He's a white man, even though Ethiopia means black people. Ethiopians are considered white Caucasians. Ethiopians, Eritreans, and Somalians are considered white people. That's how they could say a pharaoh is a European, because they have the genetics of a Nubian. Or actually, the Egyptians and Nubians claim they come from Ethiopia, and they claiming that that's white Caucasians. And then they come to the United States and they claim that a European came here, the Vikings, and they was the Native Americans. So everybody in the world, according to the white, so-called white Europeans, all the ancient civilizations were started by white black people, because all of the so-called ancient black people, according to the Europeans, were actually white people with black skin. And they just lost their pigmentation over time. But they originally were black white people. And the people that exist right now in Sudan, when they come to the United States, they try to force them to classify themselves as white people. See what I'm saying? But this is why my Instagram page was deleted, and that's all I want to post right now.